Graphing linear equations. Number 1. The equation y is equal to 3 halves times the quantity x minus 8 is graphed in the xy plane. Which of the following equations will have a graph that is parallel to the graph of the above equation and have an x-intercept on the negative x-axis? First, let's distribute this 3 halves so that we get a more familiar looking equation. This becomes y is equal to 3 halves x, and 3 times the negative 8 is negative 24, divided by 2 is negative 12. We are looking for a graph that is parallel to this graph. And secondly, it has an x-intercept on the negative x-axis. So let's take those two conditions one at a time. For two graphs to be parallel, or two lines to be parallel, they have to have the same slope. The slope of this line is 3 halves. We can rule out C and D as those have opposite reciprocal or perpendicular slopes. A or B have parallel slopes. You might see that the intercept has to be negative, and you might think B is correct, but that's actually not the right answer. If we consider the difference between an x-intercept and a y-intercept, so here's a coordinate grid, and let's take a look at B. And it can start with my intercept of negative 8. I'm going to put a dot down here at negative 8. Because my slope is 3 halves, I will go up 3 over 2. And if I draw this line, not perfect, but does it have a negative x-intercept? Well, what is the x-intercept? The x-intercept is where we cross the x-axis. And this is positive, actually. So it's not B. Just to prove it to you, the graph for A would look something like this. Our intercept, when you distribute the 3 halves, is going to be 12. And we go down 3 left 2, draw our line. And you'll notice here, we cross the x-axis when it's negative. That's why A was correct. Number 2, the equation y is equal to x plus a is graphed in the xy plane, where a is a positive constant. A second equation, y is equal to x minus a, is graphed in the same xy plane. How did the slope and y-intercept of the graph of the first equation compare with the slope and y-intercept of the graph of the second equation? So ignoring our answer choices for just a second, our first equation looks like this in blue and our second equation in red. Both of these follow the format y equals mx plus b. They are lines after all. Can we identify their slopes and intercepts? Well, the slope would be right in front of our variable. What does it mean when there's nothing there? Well, they're both a positive 1. So the slopes are the same. How about the intercepts? One is plus a, the other is minus a. As you read over these answer choices, which one best represents this scenario? If you chose A, you would be correct. Number 3, which of the following is an equation of the line A graphed in the xy plane that passes through the point negative 1, 3.5 and is perpendicular to the line B, whose equation is x plus 4.5 is equal to 0? An important first step is recognizing that x plus 4.5 equals 0 is an exception to the usual rules for lines. It's not y equals mx plus b. Instead, if we subtract 4.5 from both sides, we get x is equal to negative 4.5. This means we are looking at a vertical line. So here's a rough sketch of a not-so-straight vertical line. This is x equals negative 4.5. So what does it mean for a line to be perpendicular? Well, typically we would take the slope and take the opposite reciprocal. A vertical line does not have a slope. It's undefined. But we know that a horizontal line is perpendicular. The second part of the problem is that we know a point that this horizontal line passes through. And that's plotted right there, negative 1, 3.5. We know we're looking at a horizontal line that passes through this point. So in green is our line. C was the best choice. Number 4, a line is graphed in the xy plane as shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? My advice would be start with the y-intercept. That value is right here, where the line crosses the y-axis, and that's negative 2. If we consider y equals mx plus b, this negative 2 is our b value. If we look at our answer choices, we can rule out A and C, because they say plus 2 when it should be minus 2. Notice the second difference in the remaining answers. A positive 2/5 for B and a negative 2/5 for D. So as we go from left to right, this line is heading downward. So it has a negative slope. If you wanted to, you could count down 2/5, negative 2/5. Number 5. Which of the following equations represents the line graphed at left in the xy plane? This is a horizontal line. Because of that, we're either going to choose x equals -4 or y equals -4. Which one do you think? Well, this right here is our y-axis. That's how we know that the answer is y is equal to -4. Number 6. A line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? I see here that my y-intercept is a positive 1. This allows me to rule out B and D because they have the wrong intercept. As I travel from left to right, my line is heading upward, so it has a positive slope. That means that A is correct. If I wanted to, I could count up 3/7 and verify that slope. Number 7. A line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? Suddenly, we are no longer in y equals mx plus b format. Instead, it's as if someone subtracted this mx term from both sides, and we have y minus mx is equal to b. Keeping that in mind, we can still start with our y-intercept, a positive 7. So from that information, we can rule out C and D, because they have that b is a -7. So keep in mind that we are trying to identify by a negative mx. Which one of these is correct? As I travel from left to right, my slope is in fact positive. But I should be subtracting a positive value here on the left, so that's why B is correct. Number 8, a line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? Let's begin this problem by identifying that our y-intercept is 3, which means if x is 0, then y is 3. So I can take one of these equations, let's choose A, and plug in 0 for x, and see if y equals 3 makes the equation true. So 2 times 3 minus 0 is equal to -6, and 6 is in fact not equal to -6. That's why A is incorrect. So the 6 should be a positive 6. We can also rule out D. Then we're verifying between minus 5x or plus 5x. So let's go back and take a look at our original line. As we go from left to right, we're going downward. Since we have our term represented on the left side, we're going to choose a positive value. Because if we were to solve that for y, we would subtract 5x from both sides and get the negative slope that is represented in the graph. Number 9. A line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? My intercept is here at -4. I can rule out B and D because they have the wrong sign. As I travel from left to right, I go downward, so my slope is negative. If I wanted to, I could count down 6/7, and I would identify -6/7 as the correct slope. Number 10. A line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? So what I can do is I can solve one of these equations for y to put it into slope-intercept form. So if I begin with x plus y minus 1 is equal to 0, I can add 1 to both sides, and I get x plus y is equal to 1. And I can subtract x from both sides, and I get y is equal to -x plus 1. If we compare this to our line, my intercept should be -1. Here, it's +1. So I know that A is not correct. This one can be a little bit more difficult to extrapolate to other equations because where is the negative coming from? The -1 here? Yeah. But what if there were other negatives, such as a negative for y? Let's move on to B and solve it. X plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. I can subtract x and subtract 1 from both sides. Can I do that in one step? Is that all right? y is equal to negative x minus 1. My intercept is correct, but notice my slope should be positive, so b is off. For c, x minus y plus 1 is equal to 0. I can just add y to both sides, and I get that x plus 1 is equal to y. Same thing, just in the opposite order. My intercept should be negative 1, not positive 1, so c is wrong. By process of elimination, d is correct. 11. A line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? If I look for my intercept, it is 0, 0. So there is no intercept. And as I travel from left to right, my slope is negative. That rules out b and a. And from here, I need to count how much I rise and how much I run. Notice I travel down 3 and right 2. So negative 3 goes on the top and 2 goes on the bottom. C is correct. Negative 2/3 would end up here instead. Last one, number 12. A line is graphed in the xy plane shown at left. Which of the following is an equation of the line? I have a horizontal line. So if I take a look, this line crosses my y-axis, or axis, which at what point? 3.5. So I write y is equal to 3.5. And none of my answer choices are exactly that. But notice for C, if I just add 3.5 to both sides, what do I get? Y is equal to 3.5. That's why C is correct.